Today, Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar will talk of his book of the organization behavior. And in this series, he will talk about the personality. When we talk about the personality, we don't mean a person who has a charm. Understanding a personality is important in organization, that what type of the personality the person possesses. A positive attitude towards a life, a smiling face, or has won the Miss World contest. When psychologists talk of the personality, they mean a dynamic concept describing the growth and development of a person's whole psychological system. The word personality has interesting etymological origin. It can be traced to the Latin words personare, which translate as to speak thorough. The Latin term was used to denote the mask worn by the actors in the ancient Greece and the Rome. The Latin meaning is particularly relevant to the contemporary analysis of the personality. Personality refers to the how people influence others through their external appearances and actions. This is the personality. How people influence others through the external appearances and actions. But for psychologists, personality includes internal appearances and the behavior, the inner awareness of self as a permanent organizing force, the particular organization of the measurable traits, both inner and outer. This is known as the personality. Internal appearance and the behavior, the inner awareness of self as a permanent organizing force, the particular organization of the measurable traits, both inner and the outer. Personality is an individual difference that lends consistency to a person's behavior. Personality is defined as a relatively stable set of the characteristics that influence an individual's behavior. For our purposes, you should think of the personality as the sum total of ways in which an individual reacts and interacts with the other. This is the most often described in terms of the measurable personality traits that a person exhibits. Definition of the personality. Though psychologists and the social scientists unanimously agree to the importance of the personality, they are unable to come up with a unanimous definition. Many authorities on the subject have defined personality in the different ways. Some of the definitions are reproduced below. Probably the most meaningful approach would be to include both the person and the role, as a Floyd L. Roach does in this definition. He states that the human personality includes external appearance and behavior or social stimulus value, inner awareness of a self as a permanent organizing force, the particular pattern or organization of the measurable traits, both inner and outer. Gordon Allport gave the most frequently used definition of the personality nearly 70 years ago. He said personality is the dynamic organization with the individual of those psychological systems that determine his unique adjustment to his environment. According to the Gluck, personality as a pattern of the stable states and characteristics of a person that influences his/her behavior toward the goal achievement. Each person has a unique way of protecting these states. James Thompson and the Donald B. Hutton define personality as a very diverse and the complex psychological concept. The word personality may mean something like outgoing, inaugurating interpersonal ability, but we must also recognize and explain the fact that development results in a man acquiring a distinctiveness or uniqueness which gives him identity, which enables him and us to recognize him as apart from others. These distinguishing characteristics are summarized by the term personality. From the above definition, we can say that the personality is a very diverse and complex psychological concept. It is concerned with the external appearance and behavior, self-measurable traits, and the situational interaction. The word Clade and H. Murray can be used to sum up the meaning of the complex term personality when they said, to some extent, a personality is like all other peoples, like some other peoples, like no other peoples. Major determinants of the personality. What determines personality? Of all the complexity and unanswered question in the study of the human behavior, this question may be the most difficult. People are enormously complex. Their ability and interest and attitude are diverse. An early argument in the personality research was whether an individual's personality was the result of the heredity or environment. Very good question here. Individual personality was the result of the heredity or environment. Was the personality predetermined at birth? Or was it the result of the individual's interaction with her environment? Personality appears to be a result of both influences. Additionally, today we recognize another factor, the situation. The problem lies in the fact that the cognitive and the psychological processes, plus many other variables, all contribute to the personality. The problem lies in the fact that the cognitive and the psychological process, plus many other variables, all contribute to the personality. The determinants of the personality can perhaps best be grouped in the 5 broad categories. Biological factors. The study of the biological contribution to personality may be studied under 3 heads. Heredity. Heredity refers to those factors that were determined at the conception: physical stature, facial attractiveness, sex, temperament, muscle composition, reflexes, energy level, and biological rhythms are the characteristics that are considered to be the inherent from one's parents. The heredity approach argues that the ultimate explanation of an individual's personality is the molecular structure of the genes located in the chromosomes. Research on animals has showed that both physical and psychological characteristics can be transmitted through the heredity. But research on the human beings is inadequate to support this viewpoint. However, psychologists and the genetics have accepted the fact that the heredity plays an important role in one's personality. Brain. The second biological approach is to concentrate on the role that the brain plays in personality. Though researchers have made some promising inroads, psychologists are unable to prove empirical the contribution of the human brain in influencing the personality. The most recent and exciting personality come from the work done with the electrical simulation of the brain and split brain psychology. Preliminary results from the electrical simulation of the brain research indicate that a better understanding of the human personality and behavior might come from a closer study of the brain. Work with ESP on the human subject is just beginning. There seem to be the defined area in the human brain that are associated with the pain and pleasure. This being true, it may be possible physically to manipulate personality through ESP. Biofeedback. Until recently, Psychologists and the psychologists felt that the certain biological functions such as a brain wave pattern, gastric and hormonal secretion and fluctuation in the blood pressure and in skin temperature were beyond conscious control. Now, some scientists believe that these involuntary functions can be consciously controlled through the biofeedback technique. In the BFT, the individual learns and the internal rhythms of the particular body process through the electronic signals that are feedback from the equipment that is wired to the body. From this biofeedback, the person can learn to control the body process in question. More research is needed on the biofeedback before any definitive conclusion can be drawn, but this potential impact could be extremely interesting for the future. Physical feature, a vital ingredient of the personality and individual's external appearance, is biological determined. The fact that the person is tall or short, fat or the shiny, black or white shall influence the person's effect on others. This in turn will affect the cell concept. Practically all would agree that the physical characteristics have at least some influence on the personality. According to the Paul and Mawson, a child's physical characteristic may be related to his approach to the social environment, to the expectation of others, and to their reaction to him. These in turn may have impacts on the personality development. If personality characteristics were completely dictated by the heredity, they would be fixed at the birth and no amount of the experience could rather alter them. But personality characteristics are not completely dictated by the heredity. There are other factors also which influence personality. Cultural factors are there. Among the factors that influence personality formation is the culture in which we are raised. Early conditioning, norms prevailing within the family, friends and social group, and other miscellaneous experiences that impact us. Traditionally, cultural factors are usually considered to make a more significant contribution to personality than biological factor. The culture largely determined attitude towards the independence, aggression, competition, cooperation, and host of the other human responses. According to Paul A. Mawson, each culture expects and trains its member to behave in ways that are acceptable to group. To a marked degree, the child's cultural group defines the range of experiences and situations he is likely to encounter and the values and personality characteristics that will reinforce and hence learn. Culture requires both conformity and acceptance from its members. There are several ways of ensuring that members comply with the dictates of the culture. The personality of an individual, to a marked extent, is determined by the culture in which he or she is brought up. It follows that a person reared in a Western culture has a different personality from a person reared in our Indian culture. Hence, the culture determines the personality. A person reared in the Western culture has a different personality from a person reared in our Indian culture. Family factors. Whereas the culture generally prescribes and limits what a person can be taught, it is the family and later the social group which selects, interprets, and dispenses the culture. Thus, the family probably has the most significant impact on early personality development. A substantial amount of the empirical evidence indicate that the overall home environment created by the parents, in addition to their direct influence, is the critical to the personality development. For example, children reared in the cold, unstimulating home are much more likely to be socially and emotionally maladjusted than children raised by the parents in a warm, loving, and stimulating environment. Children reared in the cold, unstimulating home are much more likely to be socially and emotionally maladjusted than the children raised by the parents in a warm, loving, and the stimulating environment. The family factors are there. The parents play an especially important part in the identification process, which is important to the person's early development. According to the Marshall, the process can be examined from 3 different perspectives. Identification can be viewed as the similarity of the behavior, including feeling, attitude between child and the model. Identification can be looked at as the child's motive or desires to be like the model. It can be viewed as a process through which the child actually takes on the attributes of the model. From all 3 perspectives, the identification process is fundamental to the understanding of the personality development. The home environment also influences the personality of an individual. Siblings, brother and sisters also contribute to the personality. Social factor. There is increasing recognition given to the role of the other relevant person, groups, and especially organizations which greatly influence an individual's personality. This is commonly called the socialization process. Socialization involves the process by which a person acquires from the enormously wide range of the behavior potentiality that are often open to him or her, those that are ultimately synthesized and observed. Socialization starts with the initial contact between a mother and her new infant. After infancy, other members of the immediate family, father, brother, sister, and the close relatives or the friend, then the social group, peers, social friend, and members of the work group play an influential role. Socialization process is especially relevant to the organizational behavior because the process is not confined to the early childhood, taking place rather throughout one's life. In particular, evidence is accumulating that the socialization may be one of the best explanations for why employees behave the way they do in today's organization. Situational factors. Human personality is also influenced by the situational factors. The effect of the environment is quite strong. Knowledge, skill, and language are obviously acquired and represent important modification of behavior. An individual's personality, while generally stable and consistent, does change in different situations. The varying demands of the different situations call for different aspects of one's personality. According to the Milgram, situation exerts an important press on the individual. It exercises constant and many provide push. In certain circumstances, it is not so much the kind of the person a man is, as the kind of the situation in which he is placed that determines his action. We should therefore not look at the personality patterns in isolation. Theories of the personality. What are the theories of the personality are there? Over time, researchers have developed a number of personality theory, and no theory is complete in itself. The theories can conveniently grouped under 4 heads: intrapsychic theory, type A theory, trait theory, and the self theory. Intrapsychic theory, based on the work of the Sigmund Freud, intrapsychic theory emphasizes the unconscious determinants of the behavior. Freud saw personality as the interaction between the 3 elements of the personality: their id, ego, and the superego. The id is the most primitive element, a fundamental source of drives and impulses that operates in an uncensored manner. The superego, similar to what we know as the conscience, contains value, and the souls should not be personality. There is an ongoing conflict between the id and the superego. The ego serves to manage the conflict between the id and the superego. In this, the role the ego compromises, and the result is the individual's use of the defense mechanism, such as the denial of the reality. Components of the personality. Freud proposed a new conception of the personality, one that contains three systems: the id, the ego, and the superego. These systems do not exist physically. They are only concept or ways of the looking at the personality. Id, the id is the only part of the personality that is present at birth. It is inherited, primitive, inaccessible, and completely unconscious. The id contains the life instincts, the death instinct, which account for our aggressive and the destructive impulses. The id operates according to the pleasure principle, that is to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and gain immediate gratification of its wishes. The id is the source of the libido, the psychic energy that fuels entire personality. It cannot act on its own. It can only be wish, image, fantasize, and demand. Ego. The ego is the logical, rational, realistic part of the personality. The ego evolves from the id and draws its energy from the id. One of the functions of the ego is to satisfy its surge. But the ego, which is mostly conscious, acts according to the reality principle. It must consider the constraints of the real world in determining appropriate times, places, and objects for gratification of its wishes. According to Freud, personality is composed of the three structures or systems: the id, the ego, and the superego. The characteristics are the diagram and described here. First conception of the personality. Superego, concise ego ideal. Ego, id, unmet tension, biological urges, aggressive and destructive impulses, conscious, persistent, unconscious. Id, unconscious, prominent component containing the biological urges, aggressive and destructive impulses, source of the libido, operates according to the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification, impulsive, amorsal, and selfish. Ego, largely conscious, partly unconscious. Logical, rational component which function to satisfy the its urge and carry out transaction in the real world, acts according to the reality principle. Superego, both conscious and the unconscious. The moral component consisting of the conscious and the ego ideal sets moral guidelines which limit the flexibility of the ego. Superego. When the child is age 5 or 6, the superego, the moral component of the personality, is formed. The superego has two parts: the conscience, consisting of all the behavior for which we have punished and about which we feel guilty; the ego ideal, containing the behavior for which we have been prized and rewarded and about which we have feel pride and satisfaction. In its quest for the moral perfection, the superego, a moral guide, sets up the signposts that define and limits the flexibility of the ego. Defense mechanism. A defense mechanism is technique used to defend against anxiety and to maintain self-esteem, but involves self-description and the distortion of reality. We use defense mechanism to protect ourselves from the failure and from the guilt-arousing desires or action. All of us use defense mechanism to some degree. It is only their overuse that is considered abnormal. Repression. According to Freud, repression is the most important and frequently used defense mechanism. Repression operates in the two ways. It can remove painful or threatening memory, thoughts, idea, or perception from the consciousness and keep them in the unconscious. Projection. We use projection when we attribute our own undesirable impulses throughout personality traits or behavior to others, or when we minimize the undesirable in ourselves and exaggerate in others. Projection allows us to avoid acknowledging our unacceptable traits and theory to maintain our self-esteem, but it is seriously distorts our the perception of the external world. For example, a dishonest man thinks everyone is out of the cheating. Denial, it is a refusal to knowledge consciously or to believe that a danger or the threatening condition exists. For example, smokers use denial when they refuse to admit that the cigarettes are a danger to their health. Many people who abuse alcohol, drugs deny that they have a problem. Yet denial is sometimes useful as a temporary means of getting through a crisis until a more permanent adjustment can be made, such as when people initially deny the existence of a terminal illness. Rationalization. It occurs when we unconsciously supply a logical, rational, or socially or personally acceptable reason rather than accept the real reason for an action or event. Rationalization can be used to justify past, present, or future behavior, or to soften the disappointment concern connected with not attaining a desired goal. When we rationalize, we make excuses or justify our failure and the mistakes. Regression. Sometimes when frustrated or anxious, we may use regression and revert to the behavior that might have reduced anxiety at an earlier stage of the development. For example, an adult may have a temper tantrum, rant, rave, or throw things. Reaction formation. It is at work when people express exaggerated ideas and emotions that are opposite of their disturbing, unconscious impulses and desire. In reaction formation, the conscious thought or feeling mask an unconscious one. For example, a former chain smoker becomes irritated and complains loudly at the faintest whiff of cigarette smoke. Displacement occurs when we substitute a less threatening object or person for the original object of an aggressive impulse. For example, if your boss makes you angry, you may take out your hostility on your wife. Sublimation. With sublimation, we rechannel aggressive energy into the pursuit or accomplishment that society considers acceptable and even praiseworthy. For example, an aggressive person may rechannel the aggression and become a football player. A boxer with a bad guy image like the Iron Mike Tyson might talk of the becoming an evangelist. Freud views sublimation as the only completely healthy ego defense mechanism. Typo theory. The typo theory presents an attempt to put some degree of other into the chaos of the personality theory. The type theory presents an attempt to scientifically describe personality by classifying individual into the convenient category. The two categories of the type theory are explained below. Sheldon's cyclosomy theory. William Sheldon has presented a unique body type temperamental model that represents a link between the certain anatomical features and psychological traits with distinguishing characteristics of an individual and his behavior. The psyche or body type theory have concentrated on determining a relationship between features of the face or the body and personality. Sheldon identified three body types. Endomorph, he is bulky and beloved. Sheldon's endomorph to be the rather fat, thick in proportion of his height. His personality treatment is the viscosity. The person seeks comfort, loves fine food, eats too much, affectionate, and liked all. Mesophore, he is basically strong, athletic, and tough. All appreciate his physique. In fact, it is the personality all other morphs which, or according to Sheldon, he will tend to the astondomantic. Seldom contents, that's the most physics are the mixture of the three content. Body type and the behavior correction. Endomorphy, softens and the spherical appearance, highly developed abnormal area, undeveloped of the bone and muscle. Behavior temperament, the endomorphic type, the individual usually has the love for the comfort. It's heavily like to be around people and desires affection. He is even-tempered, shows a relaxed posture, reads solely and tolerant of the other, and easy to good along with the others. He prefers to be the led than to be led. Mesomorphy, hard and rectangular physique with a predominance of the bone and muscle, strong and tough, and the injury-resistant body, well equipped for the stimulus physical demand. The mesomorphic individual likes physical adventure and the risk-taking. He needs muscular and the vigorous physical activity. He is aggressive and sensitive towards others. He tends to be the noisy and the courageous. He desires action, power, and the domination. He is athletic and seeks outdoor activity. Ectomorphy, linear and fragile, flat chest and the delicate body, usually thin and the light muscle. He displays restraint, inhibition, and desire for the concealment. He tends to be the distrustful of the people. He works well in closed area. He reacts quickly, sleeps poorly, and prefers solitude when his mind is troubled. Also, he prefers not to attract attention to the self. Typically, he is anxious, ambiguous, and dedicated. Ectomorph, these people are thin, long, and poorly developed physically. Though physically weak, he leads the league in the intelligence department. His temperament is the charismatic, excessive inhibition, restraint, and avoidance of the social contact. He is labeled as an absent-minded, but brilliant, universally professor stereotype. Carl Jung's extrovert and introvert theory. The way to describe personality is in terms of the behavior, psychological factor. Jung's introvert and extrovert types are examples. However, Jung himself pointed out the extrovert-introvert turns out to be the more nature of continuum than discrete separate types. Carl Jung proposed he is 1-2 part of the theory of the personality. These two types are the extrovert and the introvert. Extrovert, they are optimistic, outgoing, gorgeous, and sociable. Extrovert are the basically objective, really oriented individuals who are more doers than thinkers. Introvert, by contrast, introverts are the more inward directed people. They are less sociable, withdrawn, and abstracted in inner life. They tend to be guided by their own ideas and the philosophy. Few peoples are complete introverts or extroverts. But mixture of these two ingredients determine the kind of the overall personality of an individual. At the base of the Jung's theory lies the explanation that the personality has the 4 dimensions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and institution. It includes logical reasoning, rational, and analytic. It refers to the interpretation of the thing, event on a subjective scale. Sensation, it deals with the perception of things in a general sense, factual and concrete. Institution, it is based on the unconscious inner perception of the potentiality of the events or the thing. Carl Jung's function can be thought as sitting at the events of the other actual depicted in the following figure. Carl Jung's extrovert-introvert theory. Thinking, feeling, institution, and the sensation. First quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. Type 1 perception is sensation. Thinking individual is basically analytic, oriented towards the present. He is primarily interested in facts and extremely practical in outlook and approach. Type 2 persons are intuition. Thinking, he is rational, analytic, takes a broad view, and is social. Type 3 person is sensation, feeling. He is factual, wishes to grasp tangible things, but is emotional. Type 4 persons are the institution, feeling. He is emotional, sociable, takes a broad view, and is more prone than others hypothesizing. Trait theory. Some early personality researchers believe that to understand individual, we must break down behavior patterns into the sweep of the observable traits. According to the trait theory, combining these traits into the group of the forms and individual personality. A personality trait can be defined as an enduring attribute of a person that appears constantly in a variety of the situation. In combination, such traits distinguishes one personality from the others. A trait is a personal characteristic that is used to describe and explain personality. It is a list of the relatively stable and consistent personal characteristics. Trait theory are attempts to explain personality and differences between people in terms of their personal characteristics. Gordon Airport's personality traits claims that the personality traits are the real entity physically located somewhere in the brain. We each inherit our unique set of the raw material for even traits, which are then shaped by our experiences. Trait describes the particular way we respond to the environment and consistency of that response. If you are shy, we respond to the strangers differently than if you are friendly. If you are self-confident, we approach tasks differently than if you feel inferior. Recent research in the behavioral genetics supports the notion that the genes influence certain personality characteristics. Allport identify two main categories of the traits. Common traits, individual traits. Common traits are those who we share or hold in common with the most others in our culture. Individual traits, according to the Allport, there are three individual traits: cardinal, central, and the secondary traits. A cardinal trait is to perceive an outstanding in life that almost every act seems traceable to its influence. It is so strong as a part of the person's personality that he may become identified with or known for that trait. Central traits, according to Allport, are those that we would mention in the writing a careful letter to the recommendation. Secondary traits are less obvious, less consistent, and not as critical in defining our personality as the cardinal and central traits. We have many more secondary traits than the cardinal or central traits. Example of the secondary traits are the food and music preferences. Raymond Cattell's 6 personality factors. Raymond Cattell considered personality to be a pattern of the traits providing the key understanding and predicting a person's behavior. Cattell identified two types: surface traits, source traits. Observable quality of a person like honest, helpful, kind, generous, etc. Surface traits make up the most basic personality structure and, according to the Cattell, actually cause behavior. Even though we all possess the same source traits, we don't all possess them in the same degree. Intelligence is a source trait and every person has a certain amount of it, but obviously not exactly the same amount or the same count. Cattell found 23 source traits in normal individuals, 16 of which he studied in the great detail. Cattell's 6 personality factors questionnaire, commonly called yields a personality profile. The Cattell personality profile can be used to provide a better understanding of the single individual or to compare an individual's personality profile with that of the others. The trait approach has been the subject of the considerable criticism. Some theories argue that some identifying trait is not enough. Instead, personality is dynamic and not completely static. Further, trait theory tended to ignore the influence of the situation. Cell theory, the psychoanalytic type, and trait theory represent the more traditional approach to the exploring the complex human personality. Of the many other theories, the two have received the most recent emphasis that are probably most relevant to the study of the organizational behavior and the self and social theories of the personality. Cell theory rejects both psychoanalytic and the behavioristic conception of the human nature as too mechanistic, portraying people as creatures helplessly buffered about the internal instinct or the external stimuli. Carl Roger is most closely associated with his approach of the self theory. Roger and his associates have developed his personality theory that places emphasis on the individual as an initiating, creating, influencing determinant of the behavior within the environmental framework. Carl Rogers developed his theory of the personality through insights gained from his patients in the therapy session. Rogers viewed human nature as the basically good. If left to the develop naturally, he thought people would be happy and psychologically healthy. According to Rogers, we each live in our subjective reality, which he called the phenomenological field. It is in the personal subjective field that we act and think and feel. In other words, the way we see is the for us. Gradually, a part of the phenomenological field becomes differentiated as the self. The self concept emerges as a result of the repeated experience involving such terms as I, me, myself. With the emerging self comes the need for the positive regard. We need such things as warmth, love, acceptance, sympathy, and respect from the people who are significant in our lives. Condition of the worth. Our plants do not view as us positively regardless of our behavior. They set up condition of the worth, condition on which their positive regard hinges, condition of the worth force to live and act according to the someone's else value rather than our own. In our effort to gain positive regard, we deny our true self by the inhibiting some of our behavior, denying, distorting some of our perception, and closing ourselves to the parts of our experience. In doing so, we experience stress and anxiety, and our whole self-structure may be threatened. Unconditional positive regard, according to Roger, a major goal of the physiotherapy is enable to people to open themselves up to the experience and begin to live according to their one value rather than values of the others in order to gain positive regard. He calls his therapy person-centered therapy. Rogers believed that the therapist must give the client unconditional positive regard. That is positive regard no matter what the client says, does, has done, or is thinking of the done. Unconditional positive regard is designed to reduce threat, eliminate condition of the worth, and bring the person back in tune with of his true self. Personality characteristics of the organization. Managers should learn as much possible about personality in order to understand their imply. Hundreds of the personality characteristics have been identified. We have selected 8 characteristics because of their particular influences on individual behavior in the organization. Locus of control. Some people believe they are the masters of their own fate. Other people see themselves as pawns of the fate, believing that what happens to them in their life is due to luck or the chance. An individual's generalized belief about the internal versus external control is called locus of the control. Internals, those who believe they control their destiny, have been labeled internals. Internals have been found to have higher job satisfaction, to be more likely to assume managerial position, and to prefer participating management style. In addition, internals have been found to display higher work motivation, hold stronger beliefs that effort leads to the performance, receive higher salary, and display less anxiety than the externals. Externals are those individuals who believe that what happens to them is controlled by the outside forces, such as the luck or the chance. Externals prefer a more structured work setting, and they may be more reluctant to the participate in decision making. They are more compliant and willing to follow directions. Research on locus of the control has a strong implication for the organization. A large amount of the research comparing internal and external has constantly shown that the individual who rate high is externality are less satisfied with their jobs, have higher absenteeism rate, are more alienated from the work setting, and are less involved on their jobs than internal, while the external are more dissatisfied. The answer is probably because they perceive themselves as having little control over those organizational outcomes that are important to them. Knowing about locus of control can prove valuable insight to the manager, because internal believes that they control what happens to them. They will want to exercise control in their work environment. Allowing internals considerable voice in how work is performed is important. Internals will not react well to being closely supervised. External, in contrast, may prefer a more structured work setting, and they may be more reluctant to participate in the decision making. Therefore, internals do well on the sophisticated tasks, which include most managerial and the proportional job. They require complex information processing and the learning. Additionally, internals are more suited to a job that require initiative and independence of the action. In contrast, externals should do well on jobs that are well structured and the routine, where the success depends heavily on complying with the direction of the others. Machiavelli. Machiavelli was a 16th century Italian statesman. He wrote The Prince, a guide for acquiring the using power. The primary method of achieving power that he suggested was manipulation of the others. Machiavellism, then a personality characteristic indicating one's willingness to do whatever it takes to get one's way. An individual high in the Machiavellism is pragmatic, maintains emotional distance, and believes that the ends can justify means. If it works, use it. It's consistent with a high Mach perspective. High Mach believes that any means justify the desired ends. They believe that the manipulation of others are fine if it helps achieve a goal. Thus, high Machs are likely to justify their manipulative behavior as ethical. They are emotional, detached from the other people, and are oriented towards the objective aspects of the situations. R. Christie and FLJs have found that the high Mach follows when they interact face to face with the other rather than indirectly, when the situation has a minimum number of the rules and regulations, thus allowing latitude for the improvement. When emotional involvement with the details involvement to winning districts law makes. A high Mach individual behaves in accordance with the Michael's idea, which include the notion that it is better to be feared and loved. High Mach tend to use deceit in relations, have a mechanical view of the human nature, and have little concern over the controversial notion for the right and wrong. They are skilled manipulators of the other people, relying on their persuasive ability. High Machs are suitable in jobs that require bargaining skills or where they are substantial reward for the winning. Self-esteem. Self-esteem and an individual general feeling of the self-worth. Individuals with the high self-esteem have the positive feeling about themselves, perceive themselves to have strength as well as weakness, and believe their strengths are more important than their weaknesses. Individuals with the low self-esteem view themselves negatively. They are more strongly affected by what other people think of them, and they compliment individuals who give them feedback while cutting down people who give them negative feedback. Research on self-esteem offers some interesting insight into the organizational behavior. Believe they possess more of the ability they need in order to succeed at work. Individuals with the high SE will take more risk in job selection and more likely to choose unconventional jobs. They are more satisfied with their jobs. People with the low SE are more susceptible to the external influence. They depend on the receipt of the positive evaluation from the other. They tend to be concerned with the pleasing others and therefore are less likely to take unpopular stands. They are less satisfied with their jobs. Self-esteem may be strongly affected by the situation. Success tends to rise self-esteem, whereas the failure tends to lower it. Given that high self-esteem is generally a positive characteristic, managers should encourage employees to raise their self-esteem by giving them appropriate challenges and opportunity for the success. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief that he or she is capable of performing a task. The higher your self-efficacy, the more confidence you have in your ability to succeed in a task. So in difficult situations, you find that people with the low self-efficacy are more likely to slacken their effort or give their all together, whereas those with the high self-efficacy will try harder to master the challenge. In addition, individuals high in the self-efficacy seem to be respond to the negative feedback with the increased effort and motivation. Those low in the self-efficacy are likely to reduce their effort when give negative feedback. Individuals with the high self-efficacy believe that they have the ability to get things done, that they are capable of putting forth and the forward effort to accomplish the task, and that they can be overcome an obstacle to their success. There are four sources of the self-efficacy: prior experience, behavior models, perception from the other people, assessment of the current physical and emotional capability. Believing in one's capability to go get something done is an important facilitator of the success. There is strong evidence that the self-efficacy leads to the higher performance on a wide variety of the physical and mental tasks. Manager can help employee develop their self-efficacy. This can be done by providing avenue for the showing performance and rewarding an employee's achievement. Managers can help employee develop their self-efficacy. This can be done by providing avenues for the showing performance and rewarding an employee's achievement. Self-monitoring, a characteristic with the great potential for attracting behavior in the organization, is the self-monitoring. Self-monitoring refers to an individual's ability to adjust his/her behavior to the external situational factor. High self-monitors pay attention to what is appropriate in particular situation and to the behavior of the other people, and they behave accordingly. Low self-monitor, in contrast, are not as vigilant to the situational cues and act from the internal states rather than paying attention to the situation. As a result, the behavior of the low self-monitor is consistent across situations. High self-monitors, because their behavior varies with the situation, appears to be the more unpredictable and the less consistent. High self-monitors are capable of the presenting striking contradiction between their public persona and their private self. Low self-monitors can distinguish themselves this way. Positive negative effect. Individuals who focus on the positive aspects of themselves, other people, and the world in general are said to have positive effect. In contrast, those who accentuate the negative in themselves, other, the world are said to possess negative effects. Employees with the positive effect are absent from the work less often. Individuals with the negative effect report more work stress. Negative individual effect produces negative group effect, and this leads to the less cooperative behavior in the work group. Managers can do several things to promote positive effect, including allowing participative decision making and providing pleasant working conditions. Risk taking.